Chat, so you're telling me my nose is just gonna start... I'm gonna end up like Michael Jackson. Well, I'm not going to. What's good, YouTube? Today I'm gonna be reacting to what happens to your body when you're on a little bit of that booger sugar. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. It's Coca-Cola. I guess we're gonna see what happens. I've never done any type of drugs. I wouldn't recommend doing any type. And with that, let's get to the reaction.
Nose candy, snow, blow. This powder is so ancient that scientists have found traces of it in millennia-old mummies.
Chat, if they were finding this in mummies, bro, mummies definitely had a problem, bro. They were out having, like, college parties.
An ingredient in over-the-counter medicine, but now it's worth billions on the black market and is responsible for thousands of overdoses every year. It could only be cocaine. Cocaine is one of the most popular recreational drugs, but
I thought one of, like, the most popular recreational drugs was, like, I thought it was, like, Za or, like, methamphetamine or something like that.
Hard to get straight answers about it. What effect does cocaine have on your body? Where does cocaine even come from? How does a cocaine high feel? And if you're addicted to cocaine, how can you get better?
Chat, where does coke come from? Bro, wait, actually, where does coke come from? I thought it comes from, like, cocoa seeds, like chocolate seeds.
We've got the answers, and we recommend you listen closely. You don't want to become another tragic statistic. Let's start off by answering the most important question: what is cocaine? At its most basic level, it's a type of naturally occurring chemical known as a tropane alkaloid, derived from the leaves of the South American coca plant.
I'm him. We were right. It is from the cocoa plant.
And it's typically processed into a powdered form called cocaine hydrochloride. Cocaine is a nervous system stimulant, a class of substances that also includes MDMA, caffeine, nicotine, and prescription medications like Ritalin and Adderall. Like all stimulants, its main effect is that it gives the user an energy boost and stimulates the brain's reward pathway. This, as you might guess from the name, is one of the parts of the brain that produces dopamine, a chemical that the brain releases as a form of positive reinforcement. Normally, the reward pathway is activated by what the brain deems to be positive actions: exercise, eating your favorite foods, finishing a complex task, and listening to music, all things that cause your brain to produce dopamine. But cocaine sends the reward pathway into overdrive, resulting in intense excitement as well as an inflated sense of self-confidence. On the extreme end, a cocaine user might also experience psychotic delusions.
Okay, wait. So there was this dude in Miami, like, I don't know. I watched some, like, animated story about it. There was this dude in, like, Miami or something, chat, that he, like, bro, he ate someone's face off. I think he was off, like, coke, crack, meth. I'm just listing off drugs at this point, okay?
Use include raised blood pressure, raised body temperature, and photosensitivity due to pupil dilation. The high doesn't go on for very long. On average, users start to come down after 15 minutes to a half hour.
15 minutes to an hour is crazy. You're doing all of that work, bro. You're putting a hole through the inside of your nose just for you to get high for like 30 minutes.
It's worn off. The drug isn't immediately flushed out of your system. Traces of cocaine can be picked up in blood and saliva samples for up to 2 days after use, and in urine samples for up to 4 days after. Cocaine use can even be detected by testing hair samples.
Finding cocaine in hair samples, bro? Okay, I'm going bald.
In your hair for up to 3 months after taking it, which is just another reason to be suspicious of your boss if he asks for a hair sample. Before we get into some of the even more severe side effects of cocaine, some of which have had extremely devastating consequences for huge swaths of the American population, let's rewind the clock to see how this prolific drug made its way into modern hands in the first place. Cocaine has had a long history as a medical treatment, going all the way back to the indigenous people in the Andes Mountains.
I did not know that coke existed that long. Chat, I thought coke was like in the last, like, I don't know, 50 to 100 years. Bro, chat, I thought, Pablo Escobar, bro, I thought he invented coke.
Evidence recovered from mummies in the region suggests that cocaine has been used in the area since at least 1000 BC.
How is
the
that
Wari
possible?
and Inca people frequently used the coca leaf as a stimulant.
So they use the cocoa leaf. They use it as a stimulant now for, like, pain. But for, like, if you're, like, altitude, like, say you're up here, someone's down there, the person up there would use the coke.
Sickness when climbing up and down the Andes Mountains. Coca leaves are still used in the same way to this day by the people who live in and around the Andes. Typically, the leaves are chewed or boiled in a kind of medicinal tea. It can also be used to treat mouth ulcers and toothaches by wrapping coca leaves around alkaline burnt ashes and placing the sachet inside your mouth. Coca leaves were also consumed to lessen the effects of cold and hunger, which are common problems for people living in remote, high-altitude locations. When the Spanish first invaded South America, they saw the
Alright.
locals using coca leaves, magic leaves for themselves.
Why did they
When
have to go there?
Francisco Pizarro conquered the Inca people in 1532,
Who?
the Spanish Empire began exploiting the coca plant, forcing the natives to
Why did we
farm it
not
in
learn
mass
about this?
quantities so it could be exported back to Europe. Cocaine really took off in the West in the 19th century after chemists figured out how to isolate cocaine from the plant itself.
Oh my God,
In
Walter
this new
White.
powdered form, it became a very common ingredient in medicines to treat fatigue, depression, chronic pain, and even poor sexual performance.
Chat, how does that work? Was that the main reason of Coca-Cola?
Century, in 1863, a Corsican chemist named Angelo Mariani
Coke wine.
started selling a drug called Vin Mariani, a mix of cocaine
And
and wine. And of course, cocaine was also an ingredient in Coca-Cola.
I knew
Like
it.
a lot of soda fountain classics, Coke was originally sold as a patent medicine, a type of brand name over-the-counter drug.
All right, wait. Can you still buy like old Coke? Like, can you still buy the Coca-Cola that has Coke in it?
19th century and had dubious health benefits. In the
Alright.
early 1900s, however, an FDA crackdown on quack medicine and a push
Quack?
for cleaner labeling
What?
on consumer products led to a lot of patent medicines disappearing from shelves. The
Alright.
ones that did survive did so by drastically changing their formulas and rebranding as soft drinks, including
Now
Coca-Cola,
have a
which was
cocaine-free
totally
Coke.
cocaine-free by 1929. Cocaine was phased out of a lot of medicines over the course of the 20th century,
Okay.
though its effectiveness as a numbing agent and a vasoconstrictant means it's still used as a topical anesthetic to this day. It's
Bro,
most
what?
common in nose, eye, and throat surgery, where the blood vessels are very
I need a nose
delicate
surgery.
and need to be shrunk to avoid damage. In terms of recreational use, cocaine exploded in popularity in the 1970s and 80s when it
That does
became
not look like
associated with the
cocaine.
clubbing culture and gained a glamorous reputation for being the drug of choice for rich playboys and rock stars. Cocaine's pretty versatile as far as drugs go,
blows a hole
and it
through
can be
your
taken in a number of
nose.
ways.
Why would you rub cocaine on your gums? Why don't you just snort it? Okay, I already know that's gonna get clipped. I never said anything.
But it can also be dissolved in water and taken via injection.
You can just
its
drink it?
freebase form, known colloquially as crack cocaine, we'll talk about crack again later, is also smoked. Cocaine usually isn't taken orally though.
Why would you want to take cocaine orally? How would you even do that? You put your finger up your butt with Coke on it? Hold up, let me go try that.
Digestive acid in a way that makes it absorb poorly through the stomach. You can still get high from ingesting cocaine, but the effect is weaker
Breathing it
and
in?
it takes longer to kick in. Conversely, absorption of cocaine through the gums or nostrils means the chemical crosses the blood-brain barrier faster than other methods. When taken this way, the cocaine high will hit within only a couple of minutes of taking the drug. The quick fix nature of cocaine is one of the biggest drawbacks of taking it. It's addictive. Like we said earlier,
Yeah,
the
we know
high only
that.
tends to last about 30 minutes and you begin developing a tolerance to the drug's effects from the very first dose. On top of this, as is the case with a lot of stimulants, the users experience an unpleasant mood and energy crash when its effects start wearing off. So in order to delay the come down, users
Alright.
might keep taking bumps to prolong the high, even though each bump will have less and less of a positive effect each time, meaning that more and more doses
You
are
mean
required
more?
to reach the desired
Oh, that's
high.
why they
Given what
OD. So that's why people OD. You take, so your tolerance goes up. So you start out down here, you're like, you snort like a gram. You start snorting 2 grams, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not even going to say the next letter because someone's going to clip that.
pressure, this can have extremely deadly consequences. Cocaine overdose can cause heart
I was
attacks or
right.
stroke,
Oh my
and
gosh, I
habitual
predicted it.
cocaine
This is
use
not
can lead
pre-watched
to all
chat.
kinds of serious heart conditions, as well as
does it
the
lead
onset
to?
of stress-related disorders and psychosis. Coke bugs is a common delusion suffered by cocaine users going
Oh
through
my God.
psychotic episodes.
Chat, quick story time. I don't think anyone knows this. I was in, what's it called, Niagara Falls? Bro, there was this girl, like, picking scabs off of her face like this. She thought she had, like, bugs on her and stuff. I was scared to walk past her, bro. I thought she was gonna, like, bite me or something.
Burr believes that bugs are crawling under their skin. Most people
I
who
do too
use
sometimes.
cocaine only do so casually, in no small part because of how expensive the purer strains of cocaine can get. They might try it once or twice while at a party or a club, and may never do it again. But that doesn't mean they're totally off the hook, as even casual cocaine
They get
use has
addicted?
its negative effects. Snorting cocaine can cause damage to your nasal
Nose?
passages
Yep, right
in
here.
the short term, a blocked or runny nose on the mild end, and nosebleeds
So
on the
doing
more
it right
severe
before he
end.
gets on.
Remember when we said that cocaine will shrink the blood vessels when it's applied? Well, when you combine that with a rise in blood pressure, it means
Okay.
that more blood is trying to get through the veins that are becoming thinner and thinner, leading to blood vessels in the nose rupturing and leaving you with a bloody nose. The damage done by infrequent cocaine use can heal on its own, but habitual users can often suffer from a constantly runny nose, chronic nosebleeds, complete loss of their sense of smell,
That's even more reasons not to do drugs. I hate having nosebleeds.
weakened immune system. In extreme cases, people who regularly snort cocaine can contract something called invasive fungal sinusitis, a nasty infection that causes parts of the nose to rot. Even if you don't catch
Oh my God,
invasive
that's
fungal
nasty.
sinusitis, cocaine abuse can still make part of your nose rot off.
Chat, so you're telling me my nose is just gonna start. I'm gonna end up like Michael Jackson. Well, I'm not going to. If you snort coke, you're gonna end up like Michael Jackson in that one episode of South Park where his like nose straight up just like peels off.
Is cocaine hydrochloride. So when you absorb the cocaine, you're left with the hydrochloride. If too much hydrochloride builds up in your nose, it can form hydrochloric acid, which
that?
breaks down the cells in the nose over time. Ouch.
Oh, that's nasty.
Cocaine isn't very good for your teeth either. Much
not
like
surprised.
taking it through your nose, taking it via your gums can leave you open
gonna
to
rot your
infections. Like all stimulants, it has a dehydrating effect and can lower the production of saliva, which leads to a loss of
Oh.
tooth enamel. Cocaine use can also cause involuntary
That's
tooth
nasty.
grinding, which can further damage your teeth and gums. Taking cocaine intravenously is probably the most dangerous way to take it, as on top of the risk of stroke, heart attack, and psychotic breakdowns, you also have to worry about fun things like embolism and needle
What's that?
contamination.
Chat, you can get AIDS that way. Oh my gosh, that's how they do it. They stick the needle all the way up their butt. They'll be like sitting on that thing randomly. They get AIDS.
From the novels of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, was a periodic user of injected cocaine.
Oh, what?
It goes without saying that this was a little more normal
Sherlock Holmes used cocaine, bro. He was injecting it up his butt too, like everyone else now.
during the Victorian era than it is now. Strangely enough,
God, that
people
is
who
old.
consume cocaine this way also often report getting tinnitus straight after injecting, which
Chat, tinnitus is so bad. Your ears just start ringing randomly. Bro, chat, one time, I like lit off firecrackers. I swear I had tinnitus since. Like, bro, sometimes I'm being so serious. I'll be on stream and my ears just start ringing.
minutes. Those who inject cocaine are more likely to overdose, as the high wears off a lot
Exactly.
faster than it does when taken through the nose or gums. Cocaine is also sometimes mixed with heroin to create something called a speedball,
Infant?
which is
Oh.
extremely dangerous, as the complementary effects of the two drugs together make it hard to recognize
backup
symptoms of overdose. A lot of people have died as a result of a speedball overdose,
surprised.
including a number of celebrities such as John Belushi, River Phoenix, and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Who are those
Combining cocaine and alcohol is also a pretty bad idea, since the
who's
chemicals
that guy?
combine and form a substance called cocaethylene in your liver.
Oh.
Cocaethylene produces a more euphoric high, but it increases your risk of developing heart problems significantly. The fact that cocaine is a social
another
drug
reason not to do
also
drugs.
means it's often associated with blood-borne illnesses like hepatitis C. People tend to do cocaine in groups, and when they snort lines with the same straw or inject it with the same needle, it
AIDS.
greatly increases
AIDS.
the
It's gonna be
likelihood of
AIDS.
illnesses spreading from person to person. Now that we've covered the effects of cocaine, let's circle back to its freebase form, crack. Cocaine in its powdered form can't be smoked, as it burns too completely and too quickly. But in its solid or freebase form,
What?
it has a melting point of 98 degrees
What, you
Celsius,
freeze it?
which means it can be sublimated and inhaled as a vapor. Crack
Oh my
cocaine is
gosh.
made by boiling cocaine powder
Schedule
in
one.
water over a constant heat and mixing in some base, such as baking soda. The mixture then cools into a brittle crack rock that can be broken into smaller pieces and
is
smoked
what
using
Frank
a pipe.
Ocean is talking
Like
about.
any drug taken by smoking, crack can cause long-term damage to lungs.
Chat, what is the point of doing drugs? I know people think it makes you feel better. It makes you feel better. That's one good thing about it. There's like 90 bad things about it. It hurts your lungs. You die quicker.
Crack users cough up blood. Crack comes with its own unique side effects compared to, say, cigarettes or marijuana, due to the unique way it has to be smoked. Unlike weed or cigarettes, the vapor produced from melting a crack rock loses its potency very quickly. Crack pipes are typically very short to reduce the time it takes for the substance to travel from the pipe to the user's lungs as much as possible. And since crack
he
pipes are
holding?
normally made of glass, they tend to get very hot very quickly. Because of this, people who
burn your
smoke
hand.
crack will develop blisters on their lips and fingers from touching the hot glass too
another
much.
reason.
Crack became such a hot button issue in American culture that in its heyday, bizarre public service announcements featuring a wide range of public figures
What?
such as movie star Clint Eastwood and children's entertainment character Pee Wee Herman.
Pee Wee Herman was telling everyone not to do drugs this whole time. I thought he was on drugs, bro.
Hoping to discourage
My favorite
people from
show when I
taking
was
the
little,
drug.
bro.
During the moral panic around crack cocaine in the 1980s and 90s, when the drug became popular in low-income neighborhoods across America, concerns were raised about the health of children born to parents who smoked crack. The term crack baby arose as part
Crack
of that
baby?
moral panic, and many anti-drug groups argued that crack usage in pregnant people would lead to a generation of children with
Crack
poor
babies?
health, low intelligence, and underdeveloped social skills. This turned out to
I'm
be
not
a
one of
greatly
those.
exaggerated fear based mainly on racism and classism.
Chat, what does this have to do with racism? It's racist because some parents like to do coke.
The effects of
That's
cocaine
another
on
bad
fetal
reason
development
to become
were
racist.
negligible. However, cocaine abuse during pregnancy can cause a miscarriage and can in some cases
Another
trigger
bad
premature
reason.
labor. Crack is also cheaper than powdered cocaine, which means it's more likely to be cut with other drugs and potentially poisonous substances. This is not to say that powdered cocaine is never cut with any hidden nasties though. Cheap cocaine is often cut with baking soda, quinine, or sugar,
Okay.
which can cause blockages in blood vessels
can
when
literally
injected
make this at your
or
house, bro.
respiratory infections when inhaled. It can also be cut with a drug called levamisole, which heightens the
What's
drug's
that?
effects but has been associated with the development of autoimmune disease. Cocaine's
that?
also increasingly being contaminated with fentanyl.
There's literally so many good reasons. Drugs can be contaminated with fat. It can mess up your baby, mess up your lungs. Yeah, just don't do drugs.
Tests done on seized cocaine by police suggest that fentanyl is usually only present in trace elements.
Okay.
Fentanyl has become a very popular drug in the past decade, and it's likely that
Exactly.
cross-contamination occurs simply as a result of the two drugs being processed in the same lab or from them being stored in the same
What is the
places.
point of fentanyl?
But because
Just
of how
kill people?
potent fentanyl is, consuming drugs with even trace elements of it can have noticeable negative consequences. Like a speedball, the mix of fentanyl and cocaine can have
Deadly?
deadly effects if the signs of overdose aren't spotted
Okay.
quickly. Given that cocaine addiction can lead to all of these horrible effects, it might
Don't
give
do
you
it.
some comfort to know that the physical effects of cocaine withdrawal are fairly minor. Cocaine withdrawal can cause disturbed sleep schedules, increased appetite, slower reaction time, and fatigue. These physical symptoms usually start to go
That isn't
away
even
a
that
few
bad.
days after quitting.
So basically what they're saying, it's not even hard to quit. When you quit, you just get really hungry, really tired. It's worth it to quit.
Effects can be much more severe. Cocaine withdrawal can often cause severe depression and anxiety,
okay.
as the brain's reward
That's
pathway
bad things
needs time
about
to repair itself from overstimulation. Therapy can help to alleviate these psychological symptoms,
Okay.
but the process of recovery can take years. And during that time,
Not
the person
surprised.
may feel compelled to relapse and start taking cocaine again. That's why it's important for people trying to quit cocaine to have a social support network, and why group therapy is so important in
Alright.
cocaine addiction rehab. Because while many have survived and moved on from cocaine use, it only
Many
takes
haven't.
one unlucky session for things to take a turn for the worst.
Exactly.
Now watch what happens to your body
W
when
video.
smoking weed.
Alright, W video, make sure you guys never do any drugs. If you guys have already started, make sure you seek help. If you haven't, just don't do them. I've never done any type of drugs. I've never vaped, smoked, done crack, did fentanyl, smoked coke. There's probably like a hotline. If there is, I'll pop up the number on the screen. Make sure you get help. I'll put a couple of numbers. I'll put a couple of links in the description, just so if you guys are watching this and you're addicted to anything, you can call them. Make sure you subscribe to the main channel, second channel, gaming channel, clips channel, and peace.